the Maritime podcast here. Mavs Gills, Jeremy Boucher, and Jeremy. Again, another exciting week here in the Quebec Maritimes Junior Hockey League. It is Moncton is going on a bit of a run. They're starting to pull away. Cape Breton trying to find themselves home ice as well. Acadie Bathurst, they're the cardiac kids. They're they're making things happen. Hey, no lead is safe against Acadie Bathurst, and if there's time on the clock, they got a shot. Charlottetown's playing well. Halifax and St. John fighting for playoff positions. Man, it has been it's been an exciting 2 weeks here.
Yeah, it really has. Moncton back on top of the CHL rankings, back number one in the country. Finally overtook London again after London lost in regulation and then needed overtime. So, Moncton kind of took advantage of that. Bathurst, yeah. I mean, what can you say about those two games against Blainville and Halifax? It's the Blainville game tying it up with I think what it was 1 second left, and then the next night against Halifax, 2 goals in the final 21 seconds of regulation, and then winning in overtime. Those are valuable points. When you come down to the final bit of the final stretch of the regular season, like we in now, like those points are going to be extremely valuable when it comes to positioning. And Cape Breton's holding the fort. They're the ball's in their court right now if they want home ice advantage. They got a little bit of a lead on Baie-Comeau, and that seems to be what the first round series will be. Is the Eagles against the Drakkar, and distance wise, you're looking at a 2-3-2, and so you can make the argument that might favor Baie-Comeau because they've got probably one of the more hostile environments in the entire league. Charlottetown got Ross Campbell back, which is a key part of their lineup after that. We talked about it last show. Just a tough fall on the ice, and I think they're still without Kiersey, and I can't think of the other can't think of the other player's name.
Matt
Uh,
Butler, I believe
Butler,
also.
sorry,
Yeah,
yeah,
we had
that's
the Islanders on. It was Friday night. We had a chance to take a look at the Charlottetown Islanders taking on Blainville, and Blainville coming away with the win. But there was a lot of a lot of disappointment in Charlottetown at the Acadie Bathurst Titan, able to pull off two big, I guess, buzzer beaters. We're into March now, so we can start talking about March Madness. For
March
them to
Madness.
pull
Yeah,
off those buzzer beaters, they're looking at this now as a hill very difficult for them to climb for Charlottetown to avoid either Rimouski or Moncton, and it looks like it's trying to avoid the Rimouski Oceanic in that first round.
yeah, you're right. But I mean, nothing against Rimouski, but you can make the argument that there's been a bit of a jinx towards the Mem Cup hosts as of late, in in the first round and in the playoffs for that matter. And the unfortunate news is they've lost Spencer Gill, one of their top defensemen for what could be 12 weeks. That's a terrible loss. It's a terrible injury. We wish him all the best in a speedy recovery. But that a Charlottetown Rimouski series could be one to watch. If Charlottetown gets all those healthy bodies back, and Ruccia stands on his head, we could be looking at a longer series than some people are thinking, right?
I,
And we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Well, this is a Charlottetown organization that hasn't won a playoff game in 2 years, and hasn't won a playoff series in 2 years. So they're looking to break that curse and make some noise here against the Mem Cup hosts.
I know last year we were there when they took on the Baie-Comeau Drakkar, and those were two games that we were there to cover, and we we had a feeling the outcome was already uh, it wasn't in doubt when Baie-Comeau came in for game number 4 against Charlottetown, and they pulled away. They pulled away early in that
Mm-hmm.
contest, but for this young Charlottetown Islander team that has been playing so well in this second half of the year, and if they already got healthy, I know it is great that Ross Campbell's back. Of course, as you say, Marcus Kiersey and Matt Butler, both still out of the lineup, and it did give a chance for guys like Jude Heron as
Mm-hmm.
well, for Yabez Seymour to step up and get a feel for getting those first line minutes. And I have to give a lot of credit to Simon Hughes, who was, he was thrown in there to really kind of help sheriff the ice with the young guys out there, but also help them along in getting those first line and 23 minutes here in the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League.
Yeah, you need leaders like that. These are the guys that are going to be stepping up in the playoffs and leading by example. So you call him the sheriff. He's more of a Stratford sheriff, if you want to put it that way, from Stratford, PEI. But no, Jude Heron, just another one of those guys that took advantage of the NCAA rule change, and he's been very good and very good for Charlottetown. He's got an exciting future, and that organization look like they're going to take another step forward here next season. So they just need to get a little more playoff experience, and I think they're built to do some damage as early as next season.
One of the highlights we had with Jude Heron, um, this wasn't last week, but the week prior, he had a big collision with Brady Schultz, and Brady Schultz got the better part of that collision. Jude Heron at 16 and a bit of a smaller frame, he went to the bench, shook it off after 5 seconds. The fellows on the Islanders asked if he was okay or if he was dead, and he said, "No, guys, I'm good to go." Man, that was a hell of a hit. So Jude is he's got some toughness to him. Mike Smith on the broadcast talked about how he's got some Texas toughness to him, and started talking some football things. Jude, I watched you throw a football in the warm up. If you're gonna take some West Texas high school football or West Texas football toughness, I'll accept it as long as you tell me you're going to play on the defensive side of the ball because I don't know about that spiral. Not to tell tales out of school, but Jude, I think you made the right choice out of playing hockey instead of quarterback.
Well, you can make the argument that maybe the hockey competitiveness is a little better than Maine football. So we'll. I think you
And
did make the right decision.
and you know what that and I gotta say that's probably not the fairest assessment for me to talk about guys throwing the football before the game because I've seen a lot of them. I've seen a lot of guys tossing the ball around the game before, and you know what? A lot of guys in this league have made the right choice at playing hockey. It's you're not alone in that, Jude. I don't mean to single you out. There was I'm trying to remember. There was one kid, and his name's escaped me right now, who had a real nice touch on his spiral in the pregame. Again, he's not playing football; he's playing hockey. But these are the things that my football mind goes to. Nice high release point, good flick of the wrist when he's getting the spiral out there. He was putting a nice snap on the ball, and it's gonna. I'm probably gonna take a look and just a quick reminder of it as we get ready for the interview with Riley Mercer. You might hear that at the end of the podcast. Who I think has got the best spiral in warm up for the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League. Um, let's talk about Halifax and St. John right now. Uh, Talking football and touchdowns. Sea Dogs allowed two in a game this week, but they did pick up a win over the Halifax Mooseheads, and you know what? It's good for the Sea Dogs to get a win, snap that losing streak, and it must have been a nice bit of relief for Travis Kirkert and the crew.
Yeah, no, for sure. They had a tough road trip there, which included not necessarily a great moment, a great outcome for them in Baie-Comeau. I know a lot of people had a bit of a chuckle when they put their post game graphic up, and it was just beside Baie-Comeau was just a question mark. So that you can probably know exactly where I'm going with that one. But no, for them to get a win, it just gets them that much closer to Halifax. They're 3 points behind right now, so anything can happen at this point. It's a game of inches. We've seen it. It's you got to play 60 minutes if you're gonna win a game, and Bathurst proved that. So, in all honesty, this could come down to the final weekend. I expect it does. Uh, these head-to-head matchups. Halifax and St. John. These are going to be big points. And if you want it to be any closer, 3-point games would make it even more fun here coming up on the weekend of March 21st, 22nd, and 23rd.
Yeah, and I've got to be very I've got to be very careful what I say about St. John because I'm seeing them on Friday. We got them against the Mooseheads on Saturday. Beg your pardon. We've got them against the Halifax Mooseheads on East Link, so that'll be a rematch there. For the Mooseheads, they need to ensure that they're keeping up with Gatineau, or just stay above stay above Victoriaville. Victoriaville right now is sitting in 34 points, Halifax 43. They should be able to find themselves a spot in the Western Conference
Mhm.
playoffs where they take on Drummondville. And it is a young club. This playoff experience is going to be very critical for this young club. Again, I believe, 5 16-year-olds, maybe 6 16-year-olds on the roster for the Halifax Mooseheads. So a chance to take on one of the top teams in the league in playoffs and get that type of playoff experience. I mean, that's what Charlottetown went through last year. And now in this second half, they're looking like a much more improved team. And you were talking about it; they could give a very good run to Rimouski if when they face in the first round.
Yeah, for sure. If you look at Halifax last year, they were the favorites against Bathurst, and what did Bathurst do? They went in there, with no expectations. They were the underdog, and they just played their game. No pressure on them whatsoever. A team like Halifax could go into Drummondville, do the exact same thing, and you never know what the outcome's going to be. Again, it's going to be a 2-3-2 series. Halifax goes in there, takes one of the first two games, and then guess what? You're going into a loud barn in Halifax, with 9,000 people, and the energy in that building can turn a game around by the flick of a switch. So it's going to be interesting to see, really how these crossovers work and who plays who. And you can't count out the Halifax Mooseheads when they got Jacob Simon in net. We've seen what he's capable of doing. Uh, you know, in Moncton for the first half and what he's doing already in Halifax. We saw Scott McIntosh of the Mooseheads put out some tweets today about how he's got a save percentage record that he's chasing right now in the league. So that's in the back of the minds of the Mooseheads. That's going to be they're going to be playing for him to make sure he does get this record. If he puts you get a 60-minute effort out of all of these young kids. Again, no pressure. They could end up surprising, a team like Drummondville, and then I wouldn't even know what to say if that something like that were to happen.
Well, and again, and I should point out they would be ahead. They do want to stay ahead of Gatineau. They're going to be ahead of
Mhm.
Victoriaville. If they do get ahead of Gatineau, they could end up taking on Blainville. And just stay out of the box against Blainville because that power play is vicious. When you've
Mhm.
got five guys that are on the NHL CSR and they're running a power play like that, you have no room for error to find yourself in the box.
Yeah, and we saw that in Moncton over the weekend. It was an interesting end of the game where you saw Caleb Denoyer take a 5 minute major with 2.5 minutes left in the third period of a tie game, and Blainville's on the power play for the rest of regulation and then half of overtime. And you're going into that situation like that where they are the number one power play in the league, and at the same time, Moncton's the number one penalty kill in the league, so something had to give. And Moncton uh, won that game, and they killed the penalty, got their own power play in overtime, and ended the game. So it's penalties, power plays. They're gonna be few and far between in the playoffs. Uh, the tendency is the referees seem to let these players play a little more in the playoffs. So when your power plays come around, you got to take advantage of your opportunities. And a team like Blainville will certainly put the puck in the net if they get the chance.
Yeah, and again, getting a chance to see Justin Carbonneau and seeing his skill on display. I know he made an absolutely insane behind the back through the legs pass on the
Yeah.
power play to set up that first goal against the Islanders this weekend. Um, that's a tremendous skill on display, and I mean, Drummondville or Blainville, Halifax could be in for a uh, a long night, a quick series in that round. But again, it is going to be about getting playoff experience for that
Hmm.
team. And it's again, Andrew Lord is been getting the most out of the Orange here. I know they haven't been picking up the wins that they want. It's but they have been picking up points. They have been getting some overtime losses, some shootout losses. So the points are there. These points are critical for them to find themselves moving up in the Western Conference because I don't see them catching Quebec.
No, it's going to be tough. There's you got to make you could make the argument that Quebec's going to have a tough schedule because they're in the Eastern, in that conference with Rimouski. They're in with Chicoutimi as well. So there's going to be some head-to-head matchups between those clubs towards the next 2 weeks. Halifax, they could take advantage of a a St. John team come up here on Thursday night. I believe the game is. They could surprise Bathurst. They could steal a win against Moncton. That's all it takes. And then we're talking about them moving up in the standings. So nothing is determined yet, and I really think that these playoff positions are going to come down to the last that weekend of the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd of March.
Yeah, and now let's talk about playoffs because we've got Cape Breton and Moncton who could be on a
Mhm.
collision course there, and of course, Cape Breton is trying to find themselves at home ice in the first round. They've got a big game this weekend, and but it's Cape Breton is going to be looking back on this season, a season where they were really seeing themselves going all in, and looking at some of these games that they gave up. Of course, the start was treacherous, but a 2-1 loss to Victoriaville
Yeah.
last weekend. These are going to be the moments where they look back and say, "Man, if we had finished our breakfast, we wouldn't be in a situation where we are going on the road to for three in Baie-Comeau and having to deal with those air horns again." I know they want a rematch of the last season's uh, semifinals, but that is a treacherous place to end up. And you, Cape Breton is going to look back. They need to make sure that they get their habits right going down the stretch, and we'll see what happens with them as they move towards the playoffs. I see Loic Marambre is coming back, is going to be joining the Eagles from the Yarmouth Mariners. We had a chance to see him against Summerside this week. He's a big frame, big body, so I'm excited to see what he can do with the Eagles. Even if it is in a limited capacity, he is going to get a nice little run with the Q team.
Yeah, and that loss to Victo was tough. They anytime you're coming in against the last overall team in the league, it's a trap game, right? You're especially when you have Moncton the next night at center 200. Some of these players might have been looking ahead, to that game against Moncton, and so their effort might not have, or their focus might not have been on that game against Victo. And then you had Gabriel Dag play the game of his life, and the Tig walk out of there with a 2-1 win. And then, like I said, you got Moncton coming the next night, and I just think, personally, I think the Eagles were just so emotionally drained from that loss the night before against Victo that they had nothing in the tank to play against Moncton. Moncton dominated them 6-0, but fortunately for them, they haven't exactly had a great record against Charlottetown this season. Rucci has been in their head a little bit, but they got a 3-1 win against the Islanders, and they took advantage of a young Sea Dogs team and got 2 wins against them. So they're starting to find their groove. They're really getting into it. They're making up for that first half, and as you kind of wish that they wouldn't have had that first half because the Maritime division would be that much closer. It's you kind of wanted that Moncton Cape Breton battle for the Maritime division to go down to the wire, and just a couple unfortunate games, for the Eagles in the first half, and it's already clinched. Moncton's already got it right, so there's no chance for Cape Breton to catch them. But yeah, that home ice and at center 200, we saw how raucous that building was last year. It can be a very energized building with the what do they call them? The unofficials? Is that what they call themselves?
Yep, that's them. That's
uh, you
them.
know when you have fans like that, it can be intimidating. So it's going to be interesting to see how that series goes. If it's, I mean, let's be honest, it's going to be Cape Breton against Baie-Comeau. It's barring something miraculous, that's going to be a first round matchup. And you're right, the Eagles are going to want revenge, and that's going to be on the mind of Baie-Comeau.
Now that game next week against Moncton,
Mm-hmm.
it's again you talked about how Cape Breton cannot catch Moncton in the standings, but the Eagles need to have a solid performance, and they need to find a way to pick up a win against this Moncton Wildcat team for them to build some momentum going into the playoffs and have themselves. I know you're going to have momentum, but there needs to be you need to win this game to say yes, we can beat them because it has
Yeah,
been a long stretch against this Moncton Wildcat team that the Eagles have just they've they've built themselves up and it's been disappointment. And I know for Cape Breton fans especially, they really need to see they're very particular and they need to see wins. You know,
yeah,
they've been through a lot. They need to get a win. They need to find this. I know we talk about how the standings are done. We want a tighter race for Cape Breton. It's paramount for a big performance against Moncton.
100%. And you know what? Both teams are going to be coming off, one of those 3 game and 4 day road trips. Moncton's in Rimouski, Sherbrooke, and Blainville. Cape Breton, I believe they got the Remparts, Baie-Comeau, and Chicoutimi. So, it's call a spade a spade. When that puck drops, next Thursday night, the fatigue level is going to be even on both sides, and I'm expecting a much different looking Eagles team than I saw, when Moncton was in there on the 21st of February and beat them 6-0. I expect a different Eagles team, and Moncton's got to be prepared for that because at the same time, even though Moncton's 6 points up on Rimouski for the Eastern Conference and the league, the points total as well. It doesn't seem very comfortable. I'm sitting here as looking at a Wildcats jersey on my wall, and I'm thinking, a 6 point lead up on Rimouski with 2.5 weeks left in the season doesn't feel comfortable to me at all. And there's I think Moncton needs, 4 wins in their final 8 games to clinch that title. So sorry, I got something in my throat there.
Yeah, right.
Um, but it just doesn't seem comfortable. Like a 6 point lead
Well,
doesn't seem
again,
very comfortable
when
to
this
me.
podcast drops, you're going to be at the Avenir Center because it's Moncton Rimouski. It's a home game, correct?
No, it's a road trip.
No, it's road. Okay, so yes, you're on
Yeah.
the road. So that you'll be glued in on the CHL TV, getting yourselves psyched for that one because again, these points in these games are imperative. Um, On the Moncton Wildcat front, Rudy Guimont walking
Mhm.
away with goaltender of the month. Dylan Gill, defensive player of the month. So things on the individual sides moving well. And again, Rudy was called in a big spot to fill some big shoes for Mathis Russo, who is still dealing with an injury, and also just again playing well in these critical points. It's a well deserved honor for him to get goalie of the month.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 12-0. What more can you say? He came in here, not we didn't know much about him. He's coming in from the USHL, Cedar Rapids. It's you look at his EP page, didn't have great numbers in the USHL, average numbers. So we didn't know what to expect. His first few games, you could tell the rebound control needed a little bit of work, but ever since then, putting in the time with Antoine Samuel, the Wildcats goalie coach, and wow, what more can you say? 12-0. He's I think he's an under 2 goals against average for sure. It might even be under 1.5 for all I know. Like just absolutely spectacular numbers. You could make the case that it's maybe won the job here in Moncton, but is it really a job to win or lose? When you have a guy like Guimard and a guy like Russo as your goalie tandem, it's like a 1A 1B. You can't go wrong at all. I do think, however, whoever gets the start against Rimouski Wednesday night is probably the who starts game one of the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting to see who it is, and you can make a case, you can make an argument for both guys.
Yeah, so we're also moving on to get ready for Riley Mercer to join us here on the Around the Maritimes podcast. Before that, I do want to thank Mario Cicchini, the president and commissioner of the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League. He joined me this week with Eastlink Community TV. We had him on the air and had a chance to speak with him. It was interesting to hear him talk about the NCAA changes and how he feels it affects the Q, possible expansion as well. Taking a look at the how the media has the landscape has changed and how the Q is trying to do things to ensure they're attracting eyeballs and attracting attention. So it was a great conversation with Mario Cicchini.
Yeah, I actually had a chance to speak with him as well. And when he was in Moncton, myself and Adam from our Wildcast podcast had a chance to sit down with Mario, and so, funny enough, our questions were the same. It was NCAA rule changes. The fight rule. With the Memorial Cup being in Quebec, will with the OHL and WHL have to follow suit with that rule. We talked about rule changes, and you know he said if there's a rule change you like, talk to your GM, because they're the ones that go to the meetings and they're the ones that report to the owners. And the one rule I like is that jailbreaker rule in the PWHL.
Mm.
You score shorthanded, you get your player back on the ice. I love that rule, and I wish and I hope it's something that the CHL and the Q takes a serious look at, because that's you that just gives more opportunity.
And this is again, PWHL has been able to experiment with things and has done very good evolving the game with
Mm-hmm.
that. For us to bring in the that rule, I would love to see it because this certainly has the last couple of years, shorthanded goals have been up in the queue, and everyone loves a good shorty. As I speak at 5'6" with the hair. All right,
Well, if there's anything that energizes a building, especially when it's scored by the home team, it's a shorthanded goal. It can be a turning point of any hockey game, regardless of what the score is at the time. So, to be able to get your man back on the ice after a shorthanded goal, I'm all for it.
someone that's been playing really big for Drummondville, Riley Mercer. He's going to be joining us right here on the Around the Maritimes podcast. Hey, the playoffs are coming not just in the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League, but as well in the NHL, in the NBA. The Masters are coming up, and you might be wondering how can you ensure you don't miss a moment of the action? Well, you can get Prime Sports for free when you bundle it with TV and internet. And you say to yourself, wait a minute, you bundle TV and internet, you get Prime Sports for free? Who would do that for me? Why, your good friends of Eastlink will do that for you. Get Prime Sports for free. That's Golf Channel, TSN, Sportsnet included, so you don't miss a minute of the action. Go to eastlink.ca or call 1-888-345-1111 or visit one of our stores for more information today. All right, joining us here on Around the Maritimes, which, to be fair, next year we're going to have to rebrand this whole thing to Around the Atlantic. And it's our first time we've got a guest from Newfoundland, Riley Mercer, the goaltender for the Drummondville Voltigeurs, Pride of Bay Roberts. Riley, I'd love to get your thoughts on what it'd be like to have a opportunity to play in the playoffs in the first round, potentially here on the East Coast.
Yeah, obviously the way the standings are shaping out now, looks like we might be heading that way, and it's always exciting to go to the Maritimes as a kid from the Atlantic provinces. It's nice to get back in the English speaking and just go places, friendly people. Which it is same here, but just to be around that English, it's nice. So we'll see how it ends up. But if we could get to the Maritimes again, it'd be fun.
Yeah, looking back at your Q draft experience, 17 other teams could have picked you, but you landed on Drummondville. This is an organization that you and your family know extremely well. Could you have dreamed of a better scenario?
Honestly, like going through the draft and everything, the way it's shaped out and how everything's kind of molded themselves over the last couple of years, I wouldn't change my route for anything, and I'm very glad the way it's shaped out. But I was so glad that Drumville's where I ended up, knowing and being familiar with with the organization, everything with Dawson having coming through here. So it was great that this is where I landed.
You bring up Dawson being with you. There seems to be a very distinct East Coast flair with the Drummondville Voltigeurs year after year after year. What is it like to have so many East Coasters with you playing out of Drummondville?
Yeah, it's really comfortable coming in as a English guy, and over the years I've had lots come through here. I think even when I was 17, 18, almost half the team. So I think it's just it's an organization that English players are looking to come to in Quebec, and they're very happy when they get here. And so I think it's just a great organization that everyone's open to come here, and you come here and show what you can do. And they've had great success over the past years with the Maritimers, so it's working out good.
I'm not sure if you know this, but you're extremely close to being or to becoming the all time leader in games played by a goaltender in Drummondville history. It's an organization that's been around for 4 decades. Uh, Knowing all the great goalies that have worn that jersey, what's that accomplishment mean to you?
Yeah, obviously, I know I'm coming down on a few things in the franchise record book here in Drummondville, so it means a lot just to come through here. Spend all 5 years here, even though at the beginning I didn't play as much and faced a couple injuries. So honestly, I almost could been playing more, but uh, with the games I played, still reaching those accomplishments, like hopefully coming towards the end of the season now. It would mean a lot having like Jake Allen come through here for a short stint, and I know a few other like the guy who won the cup in '09. A lot of good goalies come through here, so it would mean a lot. Well, Rodrigue, when my brother played here, was great. There's so many that you don't even realize or don't even come to mind, but obviously there's been a lot, so it's nice to be in the category with him.
You've It's very rare for guys to be able to say they started at 16 and at the end of their 20-year-old season, they've only ever worn one jersey in the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League. And you're in that category right now. How do you feel you've matured from the rookie at 16 to now being a 20-year-old in between the pipes?
Yeah, obviously, I think if you look at my game alone, you'll be able to see the strides I've taken becoming goaltender from 16 to 20. But obviously, like mentally too, it's been a big change, like coming in as a rookie and not having a lot of games under your belt, and a little bit like looking at stats and trying to inch your way in and trying to get in the net every night. It's a battle. Yeah, competed with great goalies while they're here with Goob and Frankie when I was younger, and even Char even now, like still a great goalie. So uh, it's been a battle like to grab the net, but finding out just with experience and being confident and things like that. So it's been my game has grown a lot since being here, and that's a lot of help to my goalie coach Olivier Michaud. So it's helped a lot with the coaching staff too.
Obviously, you guys won won the league championship last year, President's Cup. I think it's called, what is it, the Jill Corto Trophy now? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not very common that we have a team that wins the title they come back the next season and have a year like you and your teammates are having. What is so special about the group that you have in Drummondville?
Yeah, I guess the last team to do it would have been St. John. I think that was last one when when you have the cup, you obviously look at a lot. And last year when I had it, you scan down all these teams and the ones that come. And I think St. John was the last team to do it. But it's special. It's the values that Drummondville has placed on the organization and the players who come in. That's the main focus point right there. It's not about how like you as individual as a player, but the group, the team, and how you can perform the best within the team and the habits. And I think like our new coach, like Sly, is doing a great job and really developing these young players in great hockey players. So I think that's the biggest thing coming back this year. It's just another team, and we're just trying to mold ourselves the best to have the best time and success.
To go back to that run last year in the playoffs, what are some of the things that jump out for you as to what the price it takes to lift that trophy?
Yeah, obviously, when you're in the moment, so you try not to think about too much. But it's chemistry. I would say is the biggest thing, and team unity. Everyone's on the same page. That's the biggest thing. So, uh, I would say just that, like having great chemistry, great team unity, and being mentally strong, not getting too high, not getting too low. You're always even keel, have confidence within yourself and within the team. So it doesn't matter if it's all the time going good or all the time going like you're not going as well through some times. Like it's gonna pick up if you guys believe in it. You guys are doing the right things to win. So I think that's the biggest thing. Like we faced adversity in the second round against Sherbrooke, took us 6 games that probably wouldn't have expected, and then you look in the finals and it's 4 game sweep. So it's things always play out, but it's always just to be at your best and not get too low or get too high.
When you talk about chemistry, who were some of the biggest glue guys for you in that room, and who were some of the guys that when things weren't going the right way, the team could turn to bring things back, and either with it be levity or making a serious point to get things back on track?
Yeah, obviously our leaders last year, like and same with this year. Like I think like Woody's a great guy. Like he's very serious, but at the same time he's loose himself too in moments. So he knows when to like crack down on some guys or when to have the room loose. So he does a lot of facilitating our leadership. But then you have guys like even though Goats was 18 last year, he did a great job of speaking up when he needed to and being listened to. And then we brought in some key pieces like a 20-year-old like Hachette. Like he was a great leader for us, even if he didn't put as many points on the board or wasn't as flashy. Like he did all the right things right, and he definitely led by example. So those are the guys that facilitates around. But then I think it initially comes down from the head coach, like Sly, the way he presents himself, the way he conducts himself around us. I think the players kind of subconsciously like act like how he does around the room. So it comes from him initially, and it's just about bringing everyone up as a group. So
Given the success that the team had in the first half, was it? Did you get approached? Did the veterans get approached by the coaching staff or the GM and kind of let you guys know that we're going to go for another kick at the can this year?
yeah, well, it's kind of like at the start of the year, it was kind of put in our hands. Like it's like see how you guys do until Christmas because we still had great core left and bringing in pieces and you get in training camp and it's a little bit of a surprise. Like you're not expected to be as good as what you are and you're seeing the team form itself and you're looking at another great team that can play in this league and produce. So it was kind of like putting our hands and then at Christmas. Put Yannick in a position where with how we're going that you're a top team in the league and you don't have a chance to win it every single year. So when you do, you definitely wanna win. So I think that's the position that we put ourselves in, and we're very happy to do that, and we're going at it now.
You've had a chance to put yourself into a position where you've attended some NHL camps. I know you were Montreal, New Jersey, Minnesota. What are some of the things you bring back from those camps, and what were those experiences like for you?
Yeah, those experiences were like huge for me, and each year was a different experience. Obviously because of age, and I think the biggest one was going into Montreal because I was there and I was still young and I didn't work with many goalie coaches when I was young. So when I was in Drummondville and I didn't play a whole lot of games when I was young, so I was always just focused on trying to get technically better and trying to grow my game. But sometimes you lose a little bit of focus on your reads and like just kind of stopping the puck. So when I went there, I did like a really good job and I worked with the goalie coach. Marco. So it was Marco Marciano. So it was great there, and he kind of like sat me down, was like play your game, like have fun, like be loose, and just read the game, and that's what I done. And I came back the next year and done that, and then going to Ottawa's development camp, like after injury, like showed I can play again at that level, and then went to New Jersey, did really well at rookie camp. So it was experience after experience. You take little things, and it's the habits that are the biggest thing, like small habits, what you do in the gym, practice habits, like practicing like you play and things like that. So it's all just helped me grow and develop as a goalie.
And I realize you're graduating after this season, but being a Newfoundlander, I'd love to hear your thoughts, about the return of the Q to the Rock next season.
Yeah, obviously I'm sad that I'll be out of the league because it would have been so nice to get back and play at home. But I think it's like huge for the province and the hockey there, especially like kids like being from home. Like you never seen a really really high level of hockey that produced like NHL prospects and things like that. But now with the Q returning, like you'll get to see this firsthand, and uh, as a kid from Newfoundland, you'll be able to look at it and be like, I want to get here one day, and what can I do to put myself on that level? And you can really compare yourself almost, and that's what I kind of done. When I went to the Gatorade Challenge with my brother, I seen a playoff game between Blainville and Charlottetown, a semifinal game, and it was incredible in the atmosphere. And I was like, "It's where I want to play one day." So just for kids to be able to look at that and see that, I think it'll be great.
You're
Uh, oh,
there, there
go ahead, man.
there's everyone's got a different path to the league. You're from Newfoundland and you played all your hockey in Newfoundland. You came out of Tri-Pen. You didn't have to go away. What does it mean to you to be a truly Newfoundland Q product?
Yeah, it means a lot. I think it's different for a player and a goalie, but uh, I was so comfortable at home, and I enjoy things other than hockey also. So being at home, like hunting, fishing, like you lose a lot of that when you have to move away. So uh, I chose to stay home, and my dad always said like if you're good enough, you'll find your way. So I think uh, I continued to develop there, had a great season, and with a few showcases off the province when there's a lot of scouts in the stands, I thought I performed well, and then got the opportunity to be drafted. So uh, I was happy with my development path, and just to be able to say that I just played straight all Newfoundland and then straight to the Q, it's not something that happens a lot. So it was nice for me to do that.
Yeah, getting back to next season. I saw a tweet that gave a little hint that you might have some exciting news to share about your future in the coming days. Anything maybe a hit you might want to give Mavs and I?
Oh well, you know, I've seen that too, but I've had some interest from some teams, so hopefully something can happen now shortly, and even if it doesn't, like the NCAA has been incredible, new opportunity. So, whatever route or whatever thing, anything that happens coming soon, I'll be very happy.
Now, you talked about how you had a chance to see the Q with Blainville versus Charlottetown, but the hockey that you watched growing up, the CB Stars, and Newfoundland senior hockey is a different breed altogether. And if you could encapsulate and give those not from Newfoundland a bit of background and a bit of how important senior hockey is in that on that province, the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, yeah. Senior hockey's huge back in the province. Growing up, my dad played when I was younger, and rinks are packed. They played in the mall one I remember in the finals, and like it's the rink that the Q team's going to play in. And, it's crazy like the atmosphere and stuff. So, but now it's really coming on strong again now. So it is definitely different, and everyone looks forward to seeing the hockey. And like as myself, like I think when when I'll be finished playing, and like I'll want to play in the senior hockey league in Newfoundland. Like, so it's pretty cool to look at that, and to see it grow again now. I think in the recent years, and just winning herder championships and going Allen Cups, it's something that you look at and everyone enjoys, and hopefully down the road I'll be able to get my look at it.
I, what are I love again, senior hockey was in the Mile One, now the Mary Brown Center. Of course, we got to get that MBs in there. It's not Newfoundland without Mary Browns. What's some of your favorite memories of going to the games, especially getting a chance to watch your dad play senior hockey in those type of environments?
Yeah. Well, I was really young, so I don't remember a whole lot of it, but I remember everyone talking about it and the pictures. And uh, I was actually like a player growing up, like until I was in novice, like, so I guess and like I was a player before that, and I'd go to my dad's games, and like I would be saying I want to be the goalie. It was his name was Freddie Diamond at the time, and I said like I want to be Freddie Diamond, like that's who I want to be. So it was like watching those games and like watching them play. That's where I started, and I wanted to be a goalie from then, and just watching them. That's where it all started, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I just got. Oh, go ahead, Mavs.
I guess on the Newfoundland theme, again, and again, you talked about how you like to hunt, you like to fish. Have you brought moose meat for the buys to Drummondville? Have you given them a chance to experience this? Because one of the best burgers I ever had was a moose meat burger.
Yeah, no, I haven't been able to get them up. It's quite the hassle to bring up on the plane and stuff like that, but or keeping it cold. But obviously, I enjoy it when I'm home. Like moose hunting season's not I'm away during that time, but when I was younger, was involved in it, and actually get to go hunting. I done some bear hunting this summer with my good buddy at home, and try to get duck hunting. When I was home Christmas time, I was out duck hunting, salmon fishing. So it's all fun, and nothing goes to waste. It's all eating, and it's all tasty.
Yeah, we'll send you our addresses, and you can ship Mavs and I some moose meat there next time you.
Absolutely, best burger I ever had.
Yeah.
I just thought, I just got a little bit of a fun game to play to end things on my end. So, I'm going to name 5 hockey players from Newfoundland, and you describe them to me in one word or a few words, whatever you need to do.
All right.
Yeah, we'll start off with an easy one. Dawson Mercer.
Yeah. Role model.
Alex Newhook.
Speedy.
My favorite one here, Terry Ryan.
Uh, Terry got you could describe Terry in a lot of ways, but I'd say he's comical.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah. Michael Ryder.
Uh, Goal scorer.
And last one, Dan Cleary.
Cup champion.
Love it.
That's great. How about Mateo?
Yeah, Mateo, lockdown defense.
Love it. Love it. Fact about Bay Roberts. And I'm going to ask if you know a big hockey milestone that happened in Bay Roberts in the 50s.
I don't think so.
Okay. And Jeremy, do you know a big hockey milestone from Bay Roberts in the 50s?
In the 50s?
50s.
Boys,
yeah.
I wasn't even thought about in the 50s.
No, none of us were. 1956, the Boston Bruins traveled to Bay Roberts, and it is the site of the first outdoor game featuring an NHL team to be played in Canada. So that's a bit of Bay Roberts history for you right there. So that's
I didn't even know that.
now and what they did is apparently they played a period against each one of the local teams. So everyone in Bay Roberts They got their shot against the Boston Bruins, April 9th, 1956. I'm sounding like Ron McLean here, but they had a chance to take on the Boston Bruins. It's very, very Mystery Alaska, if you will, if you know that movie.
Yeah, I never I never heard of that fact before, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's
Here
a
we
that
go.
that's
It
an
says that
interesting fact about Bay Roberts. What do we
says,
what does the city of Drummondville mean to you?
It means a lot. Obviously, being here for 5 years and almost feels like more because Dawson played here for 2.5 before me. So, you know, when I leave here now, it's going to be different not coming back. So I definitely want to make some visits back for definitely some team events in the future and things like that. But the city's done a lot for me and my family, so it's always going to have a special place in my heart.
And what advice do you give to visiting teams that are going to St. John's for the first time?
Uh, I'd say have a fun time on George Street after you're back to back.
Now, hey, most of the league is still under 19, so they got to go in the day to check out some of the restaurants there and enjoy the fun of George Street, of course. Have you given any of the over your time? Have you given any Newfoundland slang in the dressing room? Of course, there's so many guys from the East Coast that have been in Drummondville, so I'd assume that there's got to be some, as the Quebecois give us some words, which I will not repeat on the air. I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah, obviously, we have our own kind of language, but the boys definitely pick up on some of it, and like even like yes, boy, and then but like they try to use it, and they're like using it improperly. So like they're trying to incorporate a little bit, but it doesn't really work out.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, I guess we'll get you to we'll wrap up here. Riley, I appreciate you taking some time. We look forward to potentially seeing you in the playoffs, potentially in the first round in Halifax, because that's how things could end up. Of course, they're either going to face one or two in the West. So if they are going to be facing the number one team from the Western, they will be running into Riley Mercer and the Drummondville Voltigeurs.
All right, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So you're looking for a setup with your wireless and your internet? Do you know the good people of Eastlink have you covered? Because we've got unlimited wireless, unlimited mobile, and 1 gig internet. It's a bundle on for $109 a month right now. That's $109 a month for unlimited mobile and a gig internet speed. A gig internet speed. That's blazing fast. That's the internet speed that I use to create the Around the Maritimes podcast. So if you're curious about how you could have that set up, call 1-888-345-1111. Make sure you check at eastlink.ca or visit one of our stores to get yourself hooked up with eastlink.ca. And again, the Wi-Fi, it just works. It honest to God, it just works. Thanks again to Riley Mercer for taking the time to pop on with us again. The Drummondville Voltigeurs, first in the West, and a lot of East Coast connections there. We actually had Luke Woodworth in on a pilot episode of this Around the Maritimes podcast. So it was he. It was the day before he announced his NCAA commitment. So we should, I say we should air that in the near future, Jeremy.
Yeah, I would think so. He's, Riley's got such a great future ahead of him. He's been, you know, for the past 5 years, one of the best goalies in the league. He's doing his thing. He's two starts away from being the all time leader in games played by a goalie and the Drummondville organization. So, when you got records like that, you got guys like Jean-Francois Racine, Olivier Rodrigue, Sylvain Michaud, veterans, alumni like that, and you're about to overtake those guys. It just shows how reliable he's been, as a goalie.
And again, a point in that interview was, he comes out of the Tri-Pen Osprey
Mm.
minor hockey system. He played his U18 hockey in Newfoundland. And this is, there's a lot of guys that feel they do have to leave the island to improve their skills. And I can understand that if you want to play the best and you want to have your developmental skills up be able to hop into the Quebec League, you may have to travel out of Newfoundland. But he's one of those cases that he is a tried and true prospect that played his hockey completely in Newfoundland and has had great success in the Q. And of course, his dad is right. If you got the talent, the scouts will find you. And a prime example of that right there is, again, he did not have to leave, didn't have to leave the Rock, but now he has, and he's had a tremendous career with Drummondville.
Yeah, he really has, and you kind of got him about that whole outdoor game. I had no idea about that. The first
Yeah,
out was
I
it
was doing my research and I
outdoor
saw that about
hockey?
Bay Roberts. Of course, I was looking up everything I can on Newfoundland Senior because I had heard tales in the past from friends that played for Caper Soccer. A friend of mine, Greg Gesso, he was the goaltender for Caper Soccer, and he was from the west side of Newfoundland, and he'd always talk about just the glory that was Newfoundland senior hockey. And then as things moved on, I had a friend that had a Clarenville Caribou hat, and of course the Seabees were known. And I know it is good that senior hockey has made its return to Newfoundland. And hey, the Q is also making its return to Newfoundland. So you want to make sure that kids, not just in St. John's, but all across the island, have hockey role models to look up to. When he was a novice, his aspiration was to be the goaltender for the Seabees. So it's hometown hockey heroes are an extremely important part of the game. But
Part of me thinks he's going to have a much better future in nets than maybe that Newfoundland Senior Hockey League.
but you looked up facts on this 1958 game.
Yeah, I did. So it was actually there was a gentleman by the name of Gerard Saunders. It was a local player scored a goal against Bruins goaltender Terry Sawchuk, and it was the second outdoor game featuring an NHL team. Do you know what the first one was, Mavs?
Um, Can I take a guess? The first one was played in Vermont, and it involved the Montreal Canadiens in a festival, a winter ice festival. The Canadiens took on a team from Vermont, and there was another team as well. And this was long time ago. But I was in Vermont this summer, and I had a chance to see a sign that talked about the Montreal Canadiens playing on this ice surface I was or on this on this lake that I was at. That they were there for a winter festival. They played there, and then later, within 24 hours, I was in front of the Bell Center because it was part of my big SUV camping trip. And I was able to go there and check it out. So that's what I'm guessing. Am I right?
Incorrect. Incorrect. So
What?
this game in Bay Roberts was the second ice hockey match played outdoors that featured an NHL team. The first was 1954 Detroit Red Wings prison game. So the game was played outdoors at the Marquette Branch Prison between the Red Wings and a team put together with the inmates of
Okay.
said prison.
No way. This like the Mean Machine. This was the longest yard of hockey.
By the sounds of it, yeah. It
Oh
was
my god.
the exhibition was played outdoors at the Marquette Branch Prison between the Detroit Red Wings and a team put together by the inmates of the prison. The Red Wings,
Wow.
after the first period, the Red Wings were winning by a score of 18-0,
You don't
and the
say.
remainder of the match were not kept.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's wild. I guess that game with the Montreal Canadiens was before the National Hockey League. That's going to be what
Yeah,
I'm going to have to
that
look
could
that on
very
the
well
sign.
could be it.
I
Yeah.
think it was from 1893, to be honest with you. So probably before the NHL. But they played the Detroit Red Wings showed up and played the prisoners.
Played a bunch of inmates. Yeah, played against a bunch of inmates
A bunch
and
of inmates.
led 18-0 after the first period, and then they just decided not to keep score the rest of the game.
I I mean, they do this in Nova Scotia. Ricky, Julian, and Bubbles are going to be trying to find themselves a spot in jail to take on Sidney Crosby or Nathan McKinnon. That's how
Don't forget
that's going to
Marcia.
end up. They, what year was that again?
1954.
1950. So I'm trying to think who would have been on that Wings team. Again, it's an original six team taking on a group of inmates from a prison
Mm-hmm.
outdoors. That would be that would what game would you rather see? Um, prisoners, inmates against the Red Wings, or the Buys and Bay Roberts against the Bruins?
I think for the comic relief, I'd like to see a team of inmates.
You want to see the inmates? I would like to see. I would like to be in Bay Roberts, um, and I would like to go back 10 years later and ask the guy to tell the story about how he scored a goal against Terry Sawchuk. And I'm sure the story of the goal against Terry Sawchuk, it went from like here, it was like, oh, I just tipped it in, to later it was like, oh yeah, it was a full on breakaway. I did a triple deke, spun him around, scored. It was one of the greatest goals that ever happened in the National Hockey League. I'm sure there was a yarn that was woven with regards to the goal scored against Terry Sawchuk.
Oh, I'm just looking at this. The team of inmates featured Harry Keywell. He was a convicted member of the infamous Purple Gang that terrorized Detroit during the Prohibition period. So yeah, that just shows you how old this was.
That's incredible. How would you? How would they even line that up? Like, we'll never see it. We're never going to see a group of inmates take on a National Hockey League team ever. So I
Never.
guess, I guess it was what would be called a one-off. Hey boys,
If it never happens
who
again,
who can who
that's
can play
a ticket.
nets? Our goalie's in. He did something not too smart last night. Now he's in solitary. Who's strapping on the pads to take on the Detroit Red Wings? Oh my God, that's incredible.
Oh, that's great.
Hey, final thoughts for me. This is a big weekend for the Cape Breton Eagles on the
Mhm.
road, taking on Quebec, taking on Baie-Comeau, taking on Chicoutimi, and then ripping back to play the Moncton Wildcats. And after that, we've got the Mooseheads and Eagles March 14th from Center 200. And it's the 20th anniversary of the Irish Jersey Night
Nice.
in honor of Mr. Greg Lynch. So we'll be there. And I know it's a big uh, Irish Jersey Night's always a massive night for the Cape Breton Eagles. So we're very excited to be there, especially on the 20th anniversary of it. Um, Eagles got to take care of their business on the road in Quebec, though.
Mhm.
These three games are huge for building momentum going towards the playoffs.
Yeah, and that game against Baie-Comeau could very well be, the winner of that game very well could be the one who gets home ice advantage in that first round of the playoffs. So
Yeah,
every game is key from here on out. And you've got I know Moncton's got the game against Rimouski circled on their calendar, and the Eagles have that game against Baie-Comeau circled on the calendar.
it's a measuring stick week for the teams at top of the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League. And before I go, I do want to say that we figured out who I felt had the best spiral in the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League. James Swan was a kid that every time he had the ball underneath in the Scotiabank Center under the seats, watching James Swan sling that rock, it was a thing of perfection. So and again, nice release point. Was able to put a nice little on the because you want to make sure you got a flick of the wrist like
Right,
that.
Chris,
So
yeah.
My
Yeah.
guy Micah Brown, he helped coach me a little bit. He's my high school football analyst. He also played professional football, played down the states, played in Europe. He's done wonders in the football scene here in Nova Scotia, and he's even kind of helped fix my stance in throwing the ball. You know, because I did play quarterback once. I did. It was senior, and our starting quarterback had thrown. We were up by like 24 points. Our starting quarterback had taken his shoulder pads off with 2 minutes left in the game. Our backup quarterback had just hurt his hand. And on the final play of the game, after we recovered a fumble or got an interception, my teammates decided that the young man that played kickoff contain was the designated driver, and a good glue guy on the sidelines decided to get his lone rep at quarterback. So I went out there for the most exciting play in football, quarterback kneel. But one play. I'm in the fraternity of quarterbacks, Jeremy. I'm in that fraternity. Halifax Shockers, baby.
Oh,
Shockers
I love it.
football. We never
Love it.
could beat the Riverview Mustangs, man. Although on my time, they did end up beating the Riverview Mustangs for a couple of league titles there. So yeah, that's a little anecdote from the Maritime. Have you ever gone to a Riverview Mustang game?
Never. Never.
You gotta go check out them
Well,
Mustangs.
it's
It's a
called the
good
Moncton
league. That's a
Mustang
nice little
now.
league. The Riverview Mustangs, the St. John Wanderers, going over to PEI to play football was always a good time. It was in the summer. We'd go to Peaks Key after the game, and that's one of the best spots to be in the summer as a young fella in the Maritimes. It was always fun. And of course, playing at home in Halifax as well was great. And I use the term playing lightly. I was kickoff contained in a shutdown corner, as in we're up three or down three scores. Go out there, shut the game down. Anyways, that's enough. It's enough football talk here on this hockey podcast. Jeremy, we're off. We've got Eastlink. I've got St. John, Halifax Saturday, and then back home to the motherland, the Eagles and Mooseheads for Irish Jersey night. So those are our two games coming up on Eastlink. And Wildcast. What's coming up with the Wildcast?
Yeah, so we got sorry, you say Wildcats or Wildcast?
Wildcast.
Oh,
Come
the
on now.
podcast. Yeah. So we got another episode that's gonna drop on Wednesday. So check that out. We're more or less just counting down the days. We want to see where we're playing in the first round. Looks like Quebec. So we're in talks of potential, maybe a little bit of a trip there, but that's to be determined. And we're just playing everything's by ear. We're waiting to see what drops in their lap for the rest of the season.
Well, the regular season's coming to its conclusion. We'll have the playoffs coming up soon. But this has been another episode of the Around the Maritimes podcast, which soon next season is going to have to be maybe the Around the Atlantic.
Around the Atlantic.
Newfoundland is an Atlantic province, not a maritime.
Around the Atlantic's got a good ring to it.
ATA. All right. It's the ATM to the ATA right here for the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League.